Hi, good morning. This is John Gormley, your host today at the corner of Cyber and Blog Podcast. We're absolutely completely excited today to have Syya Yasotornrat, podcast extraordinaire, cybersecurity goddess, on today. Thank you so much, Syya, for being on this morning.
Oh, John, thank you so much for having me. That's so funny. Cybersecurity, I would say groupie more than anything. Let us clarify. I am not the one that's coding anything. I'm not the one that's pen testing anything. No, true respect for all those that are hardcore into the cybersecurity industry. I just sell the stuff back in the day.
I got you. Yeah, we both came from the same background, so it's wonderful to have a common person of common sales working together. So, first of all, you and I had a chance to meet a while back when you were hosting a wonderful podcast, and it kind of got me inspired to kind of create my own podcast series as well. So, thank you for being a real inspiration to me and really kind of challenging me a little bit to kind of get out there and kind of do things that are a little different than what writers normally get to do. So, this is kind of an inspiration to have you on today as well. You have so much background in cyber. You have so much background in obviously working in marketing and helping clients, kind of put their messaging out there. But one of the things that really appealed to me early on when you and I first met was really your background around ransomware and a lot of the content you were creating around ransomware. And one of the things I wanted to kind of open up our conversation this morning on was, are you getting the sense today that people are getting so used to ransomware attacks that it's kind of like COVID? Eventually you're going to get it. It's going to hurt, but then eventually you'll kind of get over it. Or is ransomware a lot worse than what people really think?
It is so much worse than what people think because when you start normalizing things and, without being political, there's tons of, issues that we could discuss, right? Like there are tons of other events that are happening right now that we can argue we're becoming more immune to. And that's something that we don't want to have happen because when it's to you, it suddenly matters.
Yes.
Right. And the problem with ransomware is you're an IP address. Ain't no one care if you're a big company, small company, or an individual. They just want to know if they can scam something from you, if they can penetrate your environment and get the data. That's what they care about is data to be able to monetize it. And that's why I cringe at the thought of normalizing ransomware.
Well, I think
It's
it's
not
something.
Friday. Don't make me drink already.
Not yet. Sorry. We'll save that for happy hour on Friday then. But I'm interested in that take because more often than not, when I'm writing more and more blogs for clients, ransomware is always in a blog. It's always talking about what you can do to stop it. And tragically, the idea of backing up your data has sort of been kind of broken because hackers have now gone after the backup systems to avoid you restoring your data as well. As you're sort of interviewing other writers and bloggers and other people that are in our space, do you find more of them are coming at it by saying there's a lot worse yet to come, or is ransomware just going to kind of be like an antivirus or a virus problem within email?
I think it's going to get worse. I think they're going to get more creative,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're going to be much more aggressive. If anything, that my peers that I've heard and talked to, quite frankly, no, I shouldn't say peers, friends that I harass for their expertise, because they're the ones that are knee deep in it, right? They're the ones that are the CISOs. They're the ones that are like, all the senior architects, right? I think as long as we've got geopolitical issues going on, and as long as we have an interconnected society, it ain't gonna get better. Anyone that thinks it's gonna get better is probably gonna be the first one scammed or ransomed in some capacity, whether they like it or not. Unfortunately.
Were you deeply surprised when the recent hack that went down in China, where they claimed to have 1 billion records stolen out of a police station in Shanghai, but the guy or person or whoever it was claimed that did it only wanted 200,000 in Bitcoin? Was that a little alarming to you, saying, well, okay, how legitimate is this attack if the guy's only asking for pocket change? Or do you think this was a much broader cybersecurity problem that not only China has witnessed, but other countries can witness as well?
Okay, so full disclosure, I read headlines on this situation. I did not go in depth into the article itself, so I was all about the media, like, oh, the gloom and doom.
Right.
If just based on this,
Mhm.
and again, my doom and gloom reading the headline, if someone is asking for a little bit of amount, that tells me that's just like a little crack
Yeah.
in the dike, if you will, right? That they're testing to see,
Mhm.
does this pin work for this size, and it's tiny. So if it works, guess what? Then it's going to open the
Something
door to
bigger.
something bigger. I think this was like a shots fired
Mhm.
not a nuclear bomb set off, if that makes sense.
No, it does. That's perfect. It's a great analogy because you're right. If someone was asking for pocket change, maybe this was a dry run for something else. Because a billion records in a police station seems like people got a little alarmed. They go, no, I mean, police and FBI and everyone has full access to all the citizens' records. It's just a matter of when. To have somebody swipe it, it's like, well, yeah, you can send it and transport it somewhere. You can encrypt it and put it on a drive somewhere. But I don't think it's a big deal. But I do agree with you. I think it's definitely was a dry run. When you're talking to CISOs in your community, are you finding the CISOs are becoming more public about cybersecurity problems, or you still see a lot of the CISOs are tentatively kind of brushing it off and being a little bit more guarded upon what they're sharing?
It depends. I think it depends on the size of the organization, what industry they're in,
Mhm,
right? If they're in a high target,
mhm,
they're shut down. They're like, communications says, nope, you're not talking to anybody,
mhm,
even if it's about you loving, chocolate pies as a kid growing up. I mean, it's
mhm.
very. I see certain industries, and obviously the size of the organization tend to be a little bit more controlled in what they can say. Now,
Mhm,
that being said, to me, the bigger target, and it's a challenge that the CISOs that I've been talking to. I do have another podcast called the CISO Diaries with my partner Leah.
mhm,
Um, the challenge, what I see is there's threefold. Okay, one of which is public communication. Like, what is the impression that you want to show outside third party people that might reflect on your organization,
mhm,
right? Or society at large with the idea of security.
mhm,
Second thing is communicating with internal to your own organization. So that
mhm,
would be your own quote real clients. That would
mhm.
be your end users or areas that you have to protect that's under your organization's tutelage, right? So communicating good practices, hygiene, things to look out for. And then also playing politics internally, right? Just
Yeah,
because you're a CISO and you've got the C title, don't mean you actually are sitting at the C suite,
not
right?
yet, not yet, but it's
And
coming.
that is a big problem that I know I can, like, veer us off into that one, but
Mhm,
is where is the CISO role in the importance of the business, right? Is it sitting under finance? Is
mhm,
it sitting under HR? Is it sitting under IT, right? Like, that's another issue that I think, the CISOs have to address. The third part of it is, within the cybersecurity profession, what the
mhm.
hell is a title of a CISO? What does a title of a
Yeah,
CISO do? And I think there's some like hashing out that needs to happen there. Within the cybersecurity community is how are we promoting the next level generation leadership
right.
and promoting the concept of cybersecurity to bring outsiders in that aren't in it currently. So there's a big issue within that cybersecurity. Sorry, kids, as an outsider looking in now as a podcast producer,
That
you've got a promotion problem.
Yeah, very true. And it's interesting. I wrote a blog about a month ago that talked about the idea, and it wasn't very popular. The idea of having the CFO and the CIO report to the CISO. And you can imagine the feedback I got on my blog was like, "Are you out of your mind?" But logically, the way you just described this was very interesting because ultimately, when you think about the old generation of sales and technology, we used to levitate to the CIO. When we sold our
Yes.
stuff, we went to him and said, "Look, you need our technology, whatever to do this." And reality is nothing blows up an organization better than a cybersecurity event. So
Yep.
ultimately, if the CISO does not have equal footing or larger footing than the CFO that's making financial decisions, or a CIO that says, we're going to go do this because our digital transformation strategy calls for this, all that goes in the can the moment that you breached. So why
Yes.
would the CISO not have ultimate Trump authority to say, you know what, hold on a minute, we're not going to do that transformation because it exposes us too much. Today, I think it's more like, thank you, but we're still going to do this. I'm more of an advocate of having the CISO saying, no, I own the final vote. Because ultimately, if I own risk, I own cyber, I own the cybersecurity insurance issue, right? If we have a breach and the cost of each breach, the IBM has come out and said 4.2 million per breach now, right? So that's 4.2 million in the can every time they get jacked. Well, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you have 100 million in sales if someone snagged it. So I still believe truthfully that the CISO needs to have a higher rank in the world because ultimately everything that those salespeople are doing or those business development people are doing goes completely away if you have a complete breach in the environment.
100%. And I can't even tell you and express to you how much I believe that as well. Maybe we're biased, right? We might be slightly biased here, but look, again, outsider looking, and I have to emphasize, I'm a podcast producer now. I am out of the sales tech, corporate sales world. So now I'm actually having the luxury of, ivory tower from my perspective, right? And when I see when companies don't view themselves as a technology company, it doesn't matter what industry or what the hell they do. They can be underwater basket weavers. You still have to enable technology to do your business. You still have to get everything connected, right?
Yeah.
All your back end systems, all your hardware, just like, layer 2 stuff, networking background. So I'm a little biased, but you know what I mean? Like everything is interconnected. When you've got, I'm looking at the air conditioning units all over IP now, right? Like, come on, you cannot tell me that the CISO's role is still somehow diminished
I
and
know.
and a quote director level influence when they should be right up there with the C-suite, talking to the management.
Or a little bit higher. The idea of having a chief risk officer not report to the CISO is another thing that really grabs me, because every piece I write recently that people said, I want to talk about business risk. I go, well, okay, where are you going with it? Are you prioritizing the problem? Are you optimizing the problem? Are you budgeting for the problem? Or are you really just saying we're going to concede the problem, that we know we have a problem, but yet we still need to function? I don't see organizations surviving anymore when they have like a real epic breach that happens, or data exfiltration, or they've laid off 6% of their workforce and half the people walk out with data. Ultimately, that had nothing to do with, oh, we're going to go Microsoft E5 because we want Microsoft services. That's irrelevant. Is it all
Yeah.
protected? Right? Is it all safe? And I think if the CISO doesn't feel the empowerment, or his department doesn't feel the empowerment and
Or
risk,
hers.
or her,
Or hers.
and thank you, and the risk organization does not report into that person,
Yeah.
then thinking about going back to our opening comment about ransomware getting worse,
Oh,
right?
totally.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this happened because we did not have a control. We did not have adaptive controls or education, whatever, but we knew the risk. We knew the risk the moment we were going to have this portal put on the internet in the cloud, and we decided not to do CASB, or we decided not to do two-factor authentication because we didn't have the budget, or we're going to push it out till next year. We suddenly have a breach. Well, the CISO is sitting there going, people, I told you
no,
this is
I'm
coming.
I am getting educated myself. So when my time, full disclosure, and everyone can like look me up on LinkedIn and see, they're like, okay, you're talking a whole big game, girl. You ain't doing it. And I get it. And I fully respect everyone that has a part to play in this. And I don't think anyone's maliciously trying to keep, the CISO down. I think there is just a maturity in management to understand the role technology really has in business. Sure, conceptually, because we moved to the cloud this, cloud that, and I get that, transformation, cloud transformation. It's like, okay, we get that.
Sounds good.
But there is huge implication legally,
Yeah.
right? So when I was talking to a CISO that has legal background, I was like so impressed with that, because I didn't think about the CISO does not necessarily have to have an IT background. They
No.
should get educated, obviously, in IT. They should probably role play with their teams to kind of, for me, get the idea. Don't have to be the practitioner, but just understand how hard it is for your team to execute when the CISO has to play their role with
Yes.
the business, right? And I'm just so excited for the opportunity, because I think, and I've argued this with at the CISO Diaries all the time, is the C-suite needs to have a CISO there
Yep.
to oversee everything that they're talking about, to say, hey guys, here are some implications of some of the things that we're looking to launch strategically in the next 5-10 years, etc.
Agreed.
That's where I've gotten pushback, actually, where some people are like, some of the CISOs are saying, no, I don't want that role. And I'm
But
like, well, kid, I think you do need to at this
you
point,
you do
but
need it.
yeah.
You do, but I agree with your point about CISOs not coming from tech being valuable, because I love CISOs that come from legal. I love CISOs that have a compliance background, because ultimately, when you're staring down a FISMA, a FedRAMP, a PCI audit, right, a HIPAA violation or two, they're the ones that fully understand. But I think many of them are becoming much better at communicating to their peers to go, look, here's how screwed we are. That's
Yeah.
1.4 million medical records have walked out the door. Right now, how it happened, we're working on it. But going forward, we need to make a decision upon, we cannot have remote clinics have access unless people are authenticated. And the other part that seems to be a real big thorn, I think, in our industry, and I want to get your take on it as well. I'm writing a lot of pieces right now on resource problems globally, getting access to qualified cybersecurity people. Are you also seeing the same thing on your side as well, where it's just organizations completely say the reason we didn't do that technology is because we just don't have the talent?
Okay, so I know Leah's gonna kick my wazoo, okay, if I do not speak properly on this, okay? Because, because my roots are in recruitment. I
Mhm,
started in recruiting,
mhm,
back in the day. Let's not date ourselves, just let's say back in the day, but I heard there was a thing called a bubble. Anyway, s there isn't a humanity resources issue.
mhm, mhm,
There is a assumption of unicorn problem. I think that's happening in the industry. When I look at job descriptions, and I was volunteering my time to help out
mhm,
my friend because she volunteers with other organizations to help bring people into cybersecurity. I was
mhm.
reading these job descriptions, and as an HR, and I used to be in IT manage in leadership, right? So I read resumes all the time. I had to write my own job descriptions for jobs that I was hiring for.
Mhm.
And when I see entry level job that expects 5 years of experience
Yes.
and they need you to do XYZ. I'm just like, "What bull crapper poop on a scooper is this?" And
Yes.
and and I think there's a couple things going on here, and I know it's an answer you were trying to make it quick, but I'm just gonna, like, just let me just share.
No, please.
HR needs to be in lockstep with whoever the job hiring manager is, okay?
Mhm.
Hiring managers, you've got a responsibility to do a real honest to God soul searching assessment of what your job truly is, okay? So if you're an entry level job, and look, I was an inside sales manager. I knew darned well I was going to have attrition. I
Mhm.
knew darned well this job was meant to groom people for the next step in their career, right? Maybe there might be some outliers that make a career out of it. That's a different conversation and different target. But
Mhm.
the majority of the people you're talking to, you are a stepping stone, except your role is a stepping stone position that you're offering. So for you to ask someone that's got 5 years plus experience when really it's basically a glorified intern
With
role,
with
don't do
benefit.
that to yourself.
Right.
And
Agreed.
then don't write that type of job where your HR, or don't defer to your HR to write the job description. Holy smoke on crackers. I've seen hiring managers say, "Oh yeah, HR can handle it." They'll just copy and paste from other jobs, other companies, and that is like lazy.
Very. And very. And I think you bring up a real interesting point about unicorn. I know that when I help my friends go out and look for work on LinkedIn and they have no idea of what they're looking for, I said, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I'm not sure." Well, first of all, you got to be clear first before you go ask, right? And the funny thing is, I'm working right now with a school here in San Diego on kind of an ebook for cybersecurity to get hiring. And I put in there things like DevOps, SecOps, NetSecOps, and things like that. And they gave me a blank stare going, "We've never heard of that job description." I said, "It's not. But if you don't know those keywords going in or asking, say, hey, I want to work on the DevOps team," they're like, "What is that?" HR still doesn't understand that. They're still looking for a computer scientist. They're still looking
Yes.
for network engineers. They're still looking for a Wi Fi expert or, God forbid, a telecommunications manager. It's like those jobs don't exist anymore. They've all been incorporated into some other workflow or work stream. And I think until HR, to your point, HR comes to grips with stop asking people for 10 years experience when they're 21 years old. That doesn't work. What you're looking for is people that can come into an environment and bring a skill set, bring a level of experience that is a complementary capability to bring value to the organization. That's what you should be recruiting for. And I agree with your point about talent. There is a lot of global talent, but organizing global talent to say, okay, now we've got all these resources in the Ukraine, we've got resources in the Czech Republic, whatever, but how can we bring them to bear to be relevant? And it all comes back to, well, what are we expecting them to do? I love your point about inside sales. I work with a lot of inside sales teams over my years, and I love them. They come in, they said they're hot, they're ready to go, they want to get going, generate leads. Thank you. But their goal is to come in the field. They want to grab the bag, make the big bucks, go out and fly, and crank up Marriott points into their blue. But ultimately, they know when they first took that role, their job is to pound the phones, right? That's the right expectation. But to not have that today, it's you see a lot of people sitting on the sidelines not getting work because, well, what did you ask for? Right? You got to know what to ask for before you're willing to look to, okay, does that job description meet mine? But I do agree with you. The transformation in HR absolutely has to happen as well.
Well, and I think that goes back to another issue is I think in our traditional college, and I'm not maligning the education system in general, but there is a need to update the terminology,
Yes.
the opportunities of careers in cybersecurity. I think it was like 55 different types of roles that you could do within
Yeah.
cybersecurity that people don't necessarily understand. It's not just hacker. Right.
Right.
Oh, I want to be red team, blue team, purple team. It's like, no, 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 there's so much more going on, right? And I think that's where again cybersecurity has a marketing problem, which is feeds to I know we're getting close on time, but this is where my expertise I think can help the cybersecurity community is this. People, how are you differentiating yourselves? CISO leadership, how are you differentiating yourselves so you can get your next CISO role? If you want to go up into the quote more responsibility CISO type career, right? There is no traditional path to CISO leadership. So first off, there's that, right? Secondly, how are you developing your personal brand? There's your professional brand and then there's your personal brand, right? And in this day and age, if this pandemic has taught anybody, please, people, you need some level of social media presence. I'm sorry, I get it. Cybersecurity is like I'm anti social media, but again, you can't rest on oh my gosh, you can't rest on your laurels.
Yes.
Can I just say you can't sit on your ass? But anyway, you just can't trust that your past successes is going to carry you forward.
Correct.
Because we're an ADD society, you have to really constantly put yourself up and out there. So anyone trying to enter cybersecurity, do some short content.
Yes.
Find who your audience is. Hint, hint. I would suggest maybe LinkedIn, or if there's another cybersecurity platform I'm not aware of, but create something that's going to attract. There is an individual. I'm going to give him a shout out. I met him through my podcast with my girlfriend, and it's Nick Werner, Werner, Werner on LinkedIn. He's in his early 20s. He's now part of he's moving up in his career, and we have predictions. I'm not betting, Nick, no pressure, but this guy is so influential from a cybersecurity perspective. He's bright, he's sharp, and he's giving back to the community. That's what you guys need to look at, whether you're a CISO or person starting out in your career. Find something that you can do. And I think Nick has really done a great job of finding his path. And he doesn't do a podcast. I've scolded him, but he does do things and he publishes, sometimes does videos, but that's what I'm really hoping everyone understands.
And I agree with that. So one of the things, the advice I've been giving a lot of the people that I work with or give advice to is they're like, I'm still looking for work. And I go, what are you doing in the interim? How are you keeping yourself busy? I don't know. Get an Upwork profile. Do some freelance work, get some experience under your belt, and put yourself out there and say, hey, I can write a privacy policy for $60, right? Just to get your rhythm of your knowledge going. And I found a few people by doing that, they're like, God, this is actually really cool. I got to dictate my hours. I'm learning. I'm doing something new every day. I have new people I'm writing for all over the world. I said, now when you go to apply for a job in cybersecurity, you can have a resume filled with actual real world stuff. And that way that recruiter is going to look at it and go, wow, we need somebody to write the policy. Oh, wow, we need somebody who knows SecOps. Wow, we know somebody that knows this. And it's interesting that I think it is definitely a gig economy. It is definitely much changed than instead of a traditional, hey, I'm going to have a 9-to-5 gig. IT was never 9 to 5. You and I have been in this for 28 years. No, it's like your doctor's hours with half the pay. Right. But the reality is the experience you gain by that, you just have to find a way to bundle it. And I love your idea of just stay involved, get in the community, be part of ISACA, be part of ISSA, donate your time to schools to help kids understand cybersecurity, build that reputation that you're contributing as well. But definitely if you're looking for work, put yourself on an Upwork, get some contracting time under your belt, build that resume as well. So kind of in the closing points here, tell me about what's coming with your podcast. What's the next 3-6 months look like in your podcast? Where are you going with it? What kind of people are you bringing on, and what are you hoping to kind of gain from it after you review it, going into 2023?
Yeah, no. So, okay, first off, I produce podcasts for other clients as well. So there's just full disclosure. If you're looking to be a guest on a podcast, guys, hit me up. I'm always happy to see if it's a good fit for my clients. And I do have tech clients as well. For me, I've got multiple projects in play. So currently the CISO Diaries is having its run right now with Leah McLean. And that is, again, all about CISO leadership. And we just hire or I'm sorry, folks that are hiring, but also be giving back to the community. So this is not something where it's a chest thumping, look at me, I'm a CISO. This
Right.
is really about they want to help other people in cybersecurity further along their career, whatever stage of career that they're in.
Mhm.
I do have other podcasts coming up that is actually open to cybersecurity conversations as well, not specifically, but it has a more broader audience, more business focus, and
Mhm.
that is The Mic is Listening. So I live stream that every Wednesdays.
Okay.
And then I'm about to launch, announcing Tuesday, not on this, and these are not on this business bites. And this is like a 15-minute shorts, and
Mm.
we will be talking about cybersecurity concepts. Again, something to chew on to kind of whet your appetite throughout the week.
Right.
So up into that, those are my three active pursuits right now. But also, like I said, we are always working with clients that are developing their own podcasts. So definitely can talk to you if it's something that you want to look at creating your own, whether it's a personal or if you're with an organization. I'm happy to do strategy consulting, production, and obviously marketing around that podcast.
It's incredible. So, how can people get hold of you? What's the best way to find you, Syya? How can I found you, of course, through our partnerships with clients, but how can people find you? How can people get on your calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always on LinkedIn, you guys. So my core audience is on LinkedIn because we produce business-based podcasts. So that's our audience.
Mhm.
But so you can always find me SYYA. Pretty much Google me SYYA. Outside of Swedish Yo-Yo Association, pretty sure it's going to be me. Especially if you do Syya and podcast in combination, I will definitely pop up. And
Right.
hopefully nothing from the 90s pop up. We'll just leave that aside. But for sure, LinkedIn is always, or you can always go to our company website, Innovation Media Enterprises, and happy to help and see where we can take people. Go cyber, though.
Thank you. Well, Syya, as always, a great friend, great colleague. I thank you so much for coming on at the Corner of Cyber and Blog this week. I'd love to have you on again. And as always, it's always a pleasure to talk to somebody in the industry just like you.
Oh, you are so kind, John. You are so awesome. And I just want to give everyone a shout out here. John and I met through another mutual client,
Mhm.
and I just enjoyed just getting to know you, John, and just your dedication in your work. Just you are very community focused as well. So I want to give you a shout out and at a boys at you. So thank you so much for having
Oh,
me. Really
thank
appreciate
you as
you.
well. And everyone, thank you very much for being on this week's At the Corner of Cyber and Blog. This is your host, John Gormley. Look forward to having you on next week as well. Everyone, have a great day.